Hi, Booze. I was looking through some old footage from my solo trip to Japan back in 2023 and felt reminiscent of the changes I went through in the 2 short weeks I was abroad by myself. How it had truly shown me the different ways I could show up for myself and how I wanted to be loved. It was a trip that became part of my identity, the backbone of trust I have in myself that I can overcome any struggle, and all I have to do is to drift and ebb with the currents and storms of life. Not to sound too philosophical, of course, but it just felt that simple when I was alone in a different country. I went on this trip with the awareness that travel does not come to many easily. And I have my mother and her flight benefits to thank for the opportunities I've had over the years to explore and appreciate other countries and their cultures. I've known that I love traveling to different countries and cities, gaining perspective on other people's way of life, daily scenery unbeknownst to me until I walk among the locals, crossing their paths. I had once been to the industrious cities in Japan with my brother, but this trip to Japan was my first attempt at solo traveling across seas, and it introduced a small but vexing fear that I have definitely encountered before, which were other people's thoughts and judgments of me. Now, I know a lot of y'all baddies out there already understand that other people's opinions about me doesn't matter, but at the time, especially as a woman, I had a minuscule uneasiness being abroad without the company of someone else. Mostly about my own safety, but I made extra precautions, giving my best friend's brother, my mother, unlimited access to my live location. But another thought stemmed from this fear of judgment, in particular to my ego. What are people thinking of me when I pass them in the street? How do they view individuals walking in to get a steaming bowl of ramen by themselves? Maybe they were judging me, watching the cherry blossoms fall and basking in the sunlight, having a picnic on my own. Ruminating over the past and now present fears of judgment brought up another anxiety of the lack of knowledge that I have of the country, the language, the customs, the culture. Since I've been before, I knew Tokyo had a spattering of people who knew basic English, though this trip started in the northern island of Hokkaido. I did my best with elementary Japanese, mostly learning phrases that would help me get directions or order at the restaurant, find a bathroom, but I reassured myself that some is better than none and that there are plenty of translation apps that I could use. I knew that I would stick out of the normal crowd because I am built differently, a little bit taller, a little bit larger, I dressed a little less conservatively, but Japan is one of the countries that I found it doesn't matter much, if at all. The kindness that the locals showed me, the shop owners, cashiers, attendants, even the police, they settled all of my anxieties within the first full day of being in Hakodate. Even when the language definitely built a barrier between us, both parties did their best to perch on the barrier, to find understanding and solve problems carefully and completely before parting ways. The locals were friendly and approachable when it truly mattered most, and that was all I could ask for in this wondrous experience. Japan was and still is one of the cleanest and most comfortable cities to travel alone. The experience opened my eyes to compassion that crosses seas and bonds humans together no matter their upbringing, no matter the environment, and no matter the language. I only hope that I showed as much respect as they paid me, and that my admiration for their culture and customs was apparent as I roamed their parks and heritage sites alone. I would ponder when I would sit alone at lunch or dinner, when I took a deep breath of fresh air in their sprawling parks, and I would settle into this sense of loneliness, that there was no one to share these moments and days with, that I didn't have company. Even though there were plenty of friends messaging daily, commenting on my social media posts, and messaging me in fascination of my whereabouts, but I still felt lonely sometimes. I was single at the time, not in a place to be in a relationship, but curious if I would ever find someone to share these special moments with, to experience the world with. But as the trip went on, these thoughts started fading into the background for the more important and overwhelming emotions and sentiments I theorized and journaled over in the present moment. A formation of confidence, security within myself, towards myself, and of myself that inclined me to truly, genuinely trust me. I became much more self-aware, understanding that no one else's thoughts or actions controlled what I was doing with my time, doing with my money, that I had freedom to act on my own and do what I will with the time that I had. I showed up for myself every day that I woke up. I found yummy foods for fuel. I found free or even cheap activities that connected me with the local values. I leaned into the slow pace of the Hokkaido countryside, basking in the lightness and beauty of the gusts of wind, pairing with the sunbeams through puffy clouds, in the heart of a city that is quiet yet lively and bright at night but not overtly imposing. Those fears of stares and judgment melted away into just awe of my environment and triumphant fanfare that I was alone in a new city, experiencing new things on my own time. I gave up my sense of control over myself and the moment and just let the day become what I needed it to be. I found myself catering to my whimsy, striding into museums confidently, and excited to learn more about what used to be. I let the city take me through doors and pathways I would have never thought to journey through except in this moment. I had no other responsibility, obligations, or expectations to fulfill or pressure myself into completing. I just had me. I had time, and I found joy and peace in just these two things. I think before this trip, I was caught up in what society pressures their youth into. Getting a good career, building ourselves up to own something, mimicking others and their way of life to be accepted into a community. But when I'm by myself, I was finally allowed to fall into who I wanted to be, recognizing what brought me so much enjoyment and harmony, letting the distractions of the modern day reduce away into white noise to make way for a new symphony of my own passions, my own mindset and spirit. I noticed a gradual shift in my journal entries where I wrote about my fears and doubts of this trip and my reassurance to myself that I'll figure it out as I go, but that this was the first time in so long that I had felt so alive and refreshed. I let the last of my past go by writing a strongly worded email signifying my release of the food and beverage industry, a path that had been carved into me since I was a small child. It was the last and final tie I severed with that piece of me, knowing that if it was necessary, I could withstand cauterizing the tie again for the sake of my livelihood, but it felt final and resolute. I was determined to make this trip about what I wanted, and it shifted into a trip that became the baseline for what I needed out of life. I healed parts of myself I wasn't aware needed healing. I faced the darkest parts of myself during the brightest days of this trip. I surrendered myself unconditionally to the adolescent conscience I had trapped and compartmentalized until I was ready. I let the thoughts and emotions I had as a child scrape onto pages in a small notebook and contemplated over my behaviors and words and actions during those challenging times that had manifested into relationships that I kept over the years. Friends seemed disposable, and it was echoed by the constant alienation I felt in the friends that I had made in my youth, but I plunged into those memories. I realized I never opened up to my friends, and I didn't know what to do when my friends opened up to me. It made me seem indifferent and honestly weird, but I also had to give my younger self grace. I was small in age and size, maybe not really size, but my parents weren't around much, and when they were, it was all about the business. I was more concerned with the reactions of my parents and brothers, wanting to be noticed and accepted by them, but always sidelined by other pressing matters pertaining to the business or some failing relationships or maybe even their ego. I felt truly alone. No family, no genuine friendships, no hope, because none of the wishes I had came true, other than the promise I had made to my mom when I was only 13 years old, that I would find my way to independence so that I didn't have to rely on others. Looking back on that promise I made to my mom, it sounds so dramatic, but I said it to my mom so matter-of-factly. I grabbed apartment finders brochures at the grocery store, circling the cheapest apartments for rent in places of the map that didn't seem so far from our neighborhood, but it actually was. It was very far. I didn't have a car. I was 13, so I didn't really know what driving was. But I thought the fast track to independence would be where I could truly grow and finally be okay with being by myself. That being on my own would make me feel better about being alone and not truly seen or known. But this trip solidified the strong bond I had made with the friends I made in my adulthood. The friends I found through miscellaneous food service jobs and tragic happenstance. I missed them on this trip, and I felt elated for having relationships with my friends and family that meant so much to me that I sought their company of my own volition, even on a trip where I'm thousands of miles away from them. I sat in that gratefulness that I had made bonds that meant so much to me in my soul, and that was what cast away those feelings of loneliness. I would have people to talk through my experiences with whenever I got back home. This gratifying situation gave me more confidence in myself and my ability to create memories and forming connections with others. I was able to put myself out there and my stories out there, made friends with the bartender and his regulars, with foreigners in his bar and a shotgunning semicircle in the rain, and with expats from America over trivia night and a ramen museum trip. Being able to reach out and make connections in a foreign country with locals and foreigners alike leveled up my confidence to something I had never known before. This trip alone to a country that's 30 hours away from home had taught me more about the feeling of home than the 26 years of comfortability in my city. I don't think this trip was necessary for me to grow into the individual I am today, but I know that it quickly made me expand my horizons because of the adventures I found myself taking, because of the decisions I trusted myself to make. I became bold in my words and actions, trusting that I would be doing my best to communicate and show people my intentions. I was able to shed dated views I had on the world surrounding me because I understood that my environment was just flowing with my decisions and that it was opening me up to opportunities to connect, pushing me to move towards my passions, granting me time to pause, to adapt, fully feel moments and mindset shifts, giving me motivation by presenting peace and stability through comprehending that while I may be uncomfortable in the middle of change, that in due time, I'll be able to taste the fruits of my labor. That what I gathered will be so much sweeter than if I were to pluck them at the most inopportune times, before the rewards were ready to be sown. My motivation at the end of the solo trip was me. I wanted to protect the happiness I allowed myself to feel after ignoring my wants and needs for so long. I felt secure in my skin. Finally, I fell in love with the life I was leading, the path I was determined to make for myself, with the time that I have in this miraculous opportunity of being a sentient human being. I think I got caught up in the realities of living, the need for money, the want for more. I didn't take the time to explore more about the joys of living, the way that money doesn't fulfill those deep-seated wants and needs we have as humans, to be seen, to be understood, and to be nurtured. As I approach 30 years of life lived, I love myself more than I had during my 20s because I've found the most fundamental parts of me throughout my 20s. I'm still on the journey to discover more about myself, and I am still raring for more adventures. And I am so lucky to have so many people that I love on this journey beside me. We can face adversity with the strength that compassion and patience gives us. It's easy to be kind to others, and it takes slowing down, considering your values, and finding the moment to be grateful for that allows us to trust ourselves, find love within ourselves, and spread it to others. Thank you for watching and listening to my lessons I learned over the course of my solo trip to Japan. I am incredibly lucky and thankful for this opportunity. Slow down, live grandly, and stay compassionate. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all next week.